and welcome back to Hedgehog Hollows Day 5 with Gina Kay. In this part I'm going to show you about colouring with Copics on vellum. This is exactly the same stamp set that we used in part 1, except I'm going to show you how to blend on a different type of material. We're going to use some heat embossing, and I'm going to show you how to polish up these areas to get rid of any Copic marks that might bleed or overflow. And then I'm also going to show you how to get different intensities by colouring on both sides. So let's get started. So in this lesson we're going to be expanding on our Copic knowledge. I have a slightly expanded selection of Copics than the ones we used in lesson 1, and I've linked these up in the blog post so you can see what we're using. So we're going to be doing this beautiful card on vellum, and I wanted you to start in vellum here so that you can just practice some blending techniques. Vellum is a bit less porous than cardstock, and you'll find your blending works a little bit easier. So let's move some of these things to the side. Now I have pre-stamped the Gina Kay stamp, which is called Arranged with Love, which we have here, which gives you this beautiful flower scene, and then you can have these options of choosing a different sentiment depending on what the occasion is. So I have pre-stamped this out on some vellum, and I embossed it using this liquid platinum that I recently bought, and I looked at it in the pot. If I open it up you can probably see a little bit better, and I thought, oh, I'm really not sure about that. I was a bit disappointed, I have to say, but with the magic of heat embossing you do literally get this beautiful liquid platinum effect. Now the sentiment, as always, I've done in the detail black embossing powder, which I link up to. It's now called a fine black. This is really old, but I've been experimenting with some, and that's the one I would recommend to you. So I'm going to pop my card base to the side and we're going to start colouring. So let's start with some roses, and for that I have 2 shades of pink. I have an RV04 and an RV63, so that's a bright and a light pink. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to colour all over our flower petals. And you don't need to particularly worry about the embossing powder because we're going to polish that up at the end. So if you do go over it, that's not a problem at all. So you can see here. Like this. Then I'm going to go in and I'm going to add some darker shadows. So where these leaves overlap, or on edges where sometimes you get a slightly darker effect, and more towards the middle as well, I'm going to add in those dark shades like this. And then I'm going to go back in with my lighter colour and I'm going to blend those in. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling up when it's on the edge and down when it's on the inside shadow edge. And by doing that I pull the colour into the rest of my rose. I'm making short sharp strokes so that I get the texture in the flower that I want. And you can see if I bring it up how that's really marbled together and gives you that nice blend. Now if you want some more intensity in the colour, you can turn your flower over and you can colour in with your lighter or darker. And on vellum this will give you more intensity. There we go. So you can see there how I've just kind of pepped that up by colouring on the reverse side. So let's do one of the purple ones so you can see me do that as well. So again I'm going to start with the light lilac, the BV01, and I'm going over it here. And this is a really pale shade of lilac. And I'm going to do a little bit on the reverse as well because I do want it a bit more intense than that. And then I'm just in the middle, I'm just going to put my pen to the side and I'm going to flick. And at the minute I'm not worrying about it going on the embossing powder. We'll show you that at the end. And it's literally just a flick. So I'm going to just do this one in the wrong order, as it were. And I'll just pull the colour out with my lighter shade. So there we go, you can see there how you get those lovely tones. And we'll also do some leaves. So I'm going to do the leaves over here. So I'm going to start with this lighter YG21 and I'm going to go all over my leaves. And then I'm going to go over the veins just with this darker shade. Like so. And then for the leaves for the lily, I'm going to pick the shade that we used previously as the darker one. Just trying to pick out what's a flower and what's a leaf. And then I'm going to use this darker YG17 for my veins. And again, I'm just putting it on its side and I'm pulling. And you can then go back in with your lighter shades and blend it in nicely. So I will give you now a nice interlude of music while I colour this in, and I'll make it slightly faster than the real thing so you can see it come together, and then I'll show you at the end how we're going to polish it up. So when you've finished and want to see how your card's going to look, it's worth taking a piece of white cardstock and popping that underneath. That will give you a better idea of the true colours, and if you've missed any areas or anything you might want to make lighter or darker. I finished off with this B01 as a background just to offset the flowers slightly. So you can do that. And now we're ready for our final stage. This is such a quick and easy card, and it looks so effective and so beautiful and elegant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Q-tip, and this is my lovely little Q-tip holder that's in today's giveaway. And I'm going to take some alcohol blending solution, and I have a little tray over here that I squirt it onto. So my tip is now very wet with the blending solution. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to polish up my embossing powder. So now that the powder is set, it's like an enamel layer. And by going over this with a Q-tip, you can take off. So particularly here where I've got lots of purple, you can see where the colour's coming off onto my Q-tip. And I've got a pink side of my Q-tip, so I will go over this rose here. And this is absolutely brilliant if you've gone over the lines just to pick up that excess colour. So I think that should pretty much do it. I'm just checking there's nothing else. A little bit down the side here. We'll wet the other side. Just clean. So you can also clean off areas like that. So you can see that there was a purple smudge that's now gone. And this will dry clear. So if it looks a little bit oily to start with, don't worry. It will evaporate and it will dry completely clear. Just touching up a few more little areas. Like so. So when I lift this up to the camera, you can see my embossing powder is back to that lovely platinum, and it gets rid of any areas that your pen is on. That's why I wasn't too worried about getting my pen on the embossing powder. There we go. So that's our finished card there. So I just trimmed it down around the edge here, and I'm going to use this fantastic new tape runner that I've bought, which is designed exclusively for vellum. And I've got half a sheet of my Nina White here, and you can just run this. I still pretty much run it just over the solid areas but you can really run it anywhere, and you can be quite liberal with it. And I found that it doesn't show through at all, so I will link this up to you. I know we're all looking for a good vellum adhesive. It is worth using that side, like so, rather than just smearing it with your fingers. And that's our finished card. So thanks for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed another Copic technique, and join us again soon for another tutorial. Happy stamping. Bye.